Hello, second grade, and welcome to Unit 2, Week 1 in Language Arts. This week we have a new set of vocabulary words. Your first word is the word eager. Eager means to do something that when you're doing something that you want to do it very much. So you're excited about it. It's something that makes you happy. So if you are eager to go to the park, it's something you're excited to do. It's something you're looking forward to. You can say, I was very eager to get the new book in the series I was reading, or we were really eager to go to our favorite restaurant for dinner. Your second word is the word sense, and sense means a feeling you have about something. So you can sense when someone that is a good friend of yours, or maybe one of your siblings, you can sense when they're feeling upset. You can sense when someone is anxious or worried and scared. Some of your example sentences here says, I could sense that my friend was unhappy, or how do you sense the feelings of other people? A lot of times you can sense how someone's feeling maybe by how they're acting, or maybe by the look on their face, their facial expressions. Your third word is the word silence. Silence means quiet. So if there is silence in a place, that place is quiet. We can say there was silence in the classroom while everyone was taking their test, or there was silence throughout the house when everyone was asleep. Your fourth word is the word shadows, and shadows are dark shapes that happen when something is blocking the light. So if you've ever made shadow puppets where you've taken a flashlight and moved your hands around in front of it to make different shapes, you are casting a shadow, or you're creating a shadow because your hand is blocking that light. Or if you're walking outside in the sun, sometimes you can see your shadow on the floor because the sun is hitting your body from a certain side, and that side of your body is blocking the light from going all the way to the ground. So you see a shadow of yourself on the ground. Your fifth word is the word freedom. Freedom means you have the ability to do what you want. So you can say, in class, we have the freedom to pick whichever book we want to read from the library. Or when we earn free time, we have the freedom to pick whichever game we want to play in our reading corner. When something is fresh, that means it's something that's new or it's not spoiled. So if you buy fresh fruits and vegetables from the supermarket, or you grew fresh fruits and vegetables in your garden, those are still new, right? Those still just grew. They're still fresh. They're not old. They haven't been there for a long time. Your next word is the word adapt. And adapt means to get used to something new or to adjust to something new. So when you think about animals that change and move to a new habitat or new home, right? They need to adapt, or they need to get used to the new place that they're living in. They need to get used to where to find their food and what their home might look like if they live in a nest, what their new nest might look like when they build it. So when you adapt, you are changing to get used to the new place that you're in so you can live there properly. And your last word is the word climate. Climate is not just the weather that's happening during a particular day, but what it's like in general in that area. So a desert, the climate of a desert is hot and dry. Does it rain sometimes in the desert? Yes. Does it get cold sometimes in the desert? Also yes. But most of the time, it's hot and dry. So when we're talking about climate, we're talking about what is it usually like there most of the time. Now, your spelling words this week all focus on your short and long O sounds. So a lot of these words are going to be really simple for you guys because they're words that you know. So hopefully you guys will have a really easy week when it comes to your spelling test. I'm going to read through your boxes, through your words. Now, your short O sound and your long O sound. So the long O specifically focuses on O, a consonant letter, and then a final E. And that's how we're making the long O sound. And you'll see a couple examples as I read through. Your first word is the word box, fox, dog, lock, pot, cone, home, nose, poke, rope, side, line, have, off, and took. So your sh O, you're seeing just a single vowel O in the middle of two consonants. But for your long O, you're seeing an O and then a consonant letter and then an E. Now remember, when I say consonant, I'm talking about any letter that is not a vowel. So an N is not in vowel. So this word says cone because that O and that silent E at the end. Now for grammar this week, we're going to be talking, or for grammar and our ELA notes in general, we're going to have multiple things we're going to talk about. We're going to review a noun, which is a person, place, or a thing, and it can name any person, place, or thing. So a cat, a dog, a house, a tree, a lamp, a girl, a boy, a friend. All of these are different kinds of nouns. We're also going to talk about a series. Now, when we're talking about a series, we're talking about a set of 3 or more words. And when we're using a series in a sentence, we use commas to separate the words in our series, and we use the word and or right before the last word. So some example sentences I have for you here. The farm has cows, comma, sheep, comma, and chickens. So you can see, here's my 3 words. I have the word cows, sheep, and chicken. So those are the 3 words in my series. I separate them by using commas after the first and second word, and then and right before the third word. So however many words you have, you're going to have 1 less comma plus the word and or. So here I have 3 words, so I have 2 commas. If I had 4 words, I would have 3 commas. And then either the word and or before the last one. Do you want to go to the park, beach, or zoo today? So park, comma, beach, comma, or zoo. I'm going to take off the underlines here so that you can see the commas properly. So remember, the commas go after the first few words in your series, and the word and goes right before the last word, or the word or. So and usually tells us that we're talking about several things that are in a group, or usually tells us that we are making a choice between different things in that series. So remember, a series is a set of 3 or more words, and we use commas to separate it, along with the words and or. Now we're going to talk about prefixes. A prefix is a word part that's added to the beginning of a word, and it can change the meaning of the word. Now, you already know a lot of prefixes, you just might not know what they're called. So we're going to go over those together. So the prefix un means not. So if you're saying you feel unhappy or someone is being unfriendly, we know that un means not. So this tells us what the meaning of that word, the meaning of that prefix is. So when we put it on the beginning of a word, we know that it changes the meaning to not. Your next prefix is re. Re means again. So when you reread something, you read it again. Or when you rewrite something, you're writing it again. And the last prefix we're going to talk about today is the prefix dis. Now, dis means the opposite of something. So if you disagree, you are not agreeing, right? It's the opposite of agreeing. If you dislike something, that means it's the opposite of liking. You do not like that thing. So we have disagree and dislike as our 2 examples. Now, pre, all by itself, is also a prefix. So pre means something before. So when you were watching a movie and you watch the previews, those are the little introductions to other movies that they talk about before your movie starts. And fix means to attach to something. So prefix means you're sticking something on to the beginning, before the word. You're sticking something on before your main word. So unhappy. Here's my word, this part on to the beginning of my word, right? So this is my prefix for here, where it's rewrite. Okay, we're also going to talk about inflectional endings. Now, inflectional endings we've talked about a little bit before. Inflectional endings are added to the end of a base word to show the tense or show when something happens. So if your base word has a silent E at the end, like a lot of your long vowel words that we have for spelling today, if it has a silent E at the end, you have to drop that silent E before you add your ED or adding your ING. Now, ED tells us something that happened in the past, and ING is telling us something that's happening right now in the present. So save, I'm going to drop that E and add the ED. So I saved a cookie for my friend, or I am saving a cookie for my friend. Drop that E and add either your ED ending or your ING ending. So bake, baked, or baking, chase, chased, or chasing. Drop the final E and then add your ending. Now we're going to go ahead and talk briefly about our comprehension skill and strategy that we're going to talk about some more later. We're going to be talking about different parts of a story. Now, in a story, we have characters. Your characters are the people or the animals that the story is about. So in our story of the true story of the three little pigs that we listened to at the very beginning of the school year, our characters are the wolf, the grandma, and the pigs. That's who the story is about. The setting tells us where a story is happening. So is it happening in a castle, or is it happening at the school? Is it happening at the house of the three little pigs? The setting tells you where. And then we have the plot. Now the plot tells you the most important parts of the story, beginning, middle, and end, without giving you all the details. So if you're telling your friend in a hurry what a story is about, you're telling them just the important stuff that happened in there, and that's the plot. And a way to remember all the parts of the plot is you can put them into 5 little boxes. Somebody, wanted, but, so, then. So somebody are your characters. Wanted is what is happening in the story. What's their goal? What are they trying to do? But is when something happens and that gets in the way, right? That's the problem in the story. So is how your character is trying to deal with that problem. How are they trying to fix it? And then tells you what happens at the end. So if I put this together for our true story of the three little pigs, my somebody is the wolf. The wolf wanted to get a cup of sugar for his grandma's cake, but he didn't have any. So he went to ask the pigs and they said no. Then their houses fell down and he ate them. And this is, the wolf's version of the three little pigs. Now I've only got one extra helpful link for you, and I'm going to add it here in our notes. I'm also going to add it in Google Classroom. So this is a link that's going to tell you a little more about nouns and help you get a better understanding of it. So let's go ahead and jump into our reading. So for your literature anthology book, we're now in Unit 2. So we're going to be talking about animal discoveries, and our story for today is called Sled Dog Run.
Genre: realistic fiction. Sled Dogs Run by Jonathan London. Illustrated by John Van Zyl. They were born in the spring, fat, tumbling puppy balls full of fresh puppy smell and puppy life. There was Skookum and Hawk and Bamboo. Here in Alaska, in the far north, Skookum means smart. See how Hawk and Bamboo chase him but can't catch him, says Papa. He will be the leader. Now in summer, the training begins. Sled dogs run. That's what they live for, to run and pull. First, they wear a harness to get used to it. Then they pull a small log, bouncing and skidding behind them. In the fall, they pull a cart for the first time. Papa runs behind me. I call out, "Skookum, Hawk, Bamboo, good dogs." For now, they run with older dogs. I can't wait till the first snow. In the winter, the snow comes, white on white, as soft as owl's feathers. I lie down in the softness and make a snow angel, but my dogs are eager to run. And by February, they are ready to pull as a team, with me as musher. My first solo run. Mama heats up a sloppy stew. The dogs must eat fast before it freezes. Mama gives me a hug. "You will love the quiet," she says, "and the oneness with nature." "You will love the speed," Papa says, "and the sense of freedom." When I come with the harnesses, the dogs go crazy. They run in circles, howling and crying and yipping with joy. Hitched to the gang line, they are raring to go. Mama says, "Be back by dark." In the north, in the winter, dark comes early. Papa says, "Trust the dogs, they will know the way." I pull the snow hook and shout, "Hike!" The sled feels like it's leaving the ground. Whoosh! We're off. The dogs straining, tugging, running out before me, huffing puffs of breath. We are racing cloud shadows. We are racing a snowy owl. We are racing the wind. We spook a snowshoe hare and fly after it. The sled whips. The runners shush. The collars and snaps jingle. Hare disappears into white. The dogs smell moose and go after it. Moose stops and turns around, fire in her eyes. With one kick, a moose can cave in a rib cage. That's what Papa says. I yell, "Ha!" and my dogs swerve left, away from the moose. I yell, "Gee!" and my dogs swerve right, their keen noses scenting the trail. I hear a howl. Is it the howl of wolves? The hair stands up on my dogs' necks. No, it is the howling wind blowing the snow sideways. I hang on to the sled handle for dear life. The storm is a hungry wolf eating up the light. Just as we hit a frozen lake, we are blinded. We are lost. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. What does the girl mean when she says that they are blinded? Go back to the text to find the answer.
Okay, so take a minute to go back and think about what they were saying. So on this page, we know that the girl is in the snow, that it's blowing all over the place, that it's really hard to see. So when she's saying she's blinded, that means she's not able to see because of all the snow and blowing around her.
But I remember what Papa says. Trust the dogs, they will know the way. The dogs are my eyes. Through the snow-blind world we drive. All I hear is the howl of the wind and the boom of the lake ice shifting. Skookum, Hawk, Bamboo, take me home. Suddenly the wind dies to a whisper and the air clears like a clean window. Whoa, I call. We come to a stop. Good dogs, good team. The sun is down and the full moon is rising, tipping its golden light. When my dogs stop panting, there's a silence as quiet as owl's breath. Then I see beyond the long blue shadows of the spruce, lights, our cabin in the woods, home, and we become a part of the night and the moon and the snow and the trees, and we run. Skookum, hawk, bamboo, hike. We run to keep up with our hearts.
Okay, so we're going to jump into our Readers and Writers Workshop book. And again, we're talking about how animals survive. That's going to be our essential question for this story. And we're going to be talking about more animal stories. So you can go ahead and take a look at your vocabulary words and read through those in your book on your own to give you another idea of how to use your words in sentences. And we're going to start our next story over here, which is A Visit to the Desert.
Genre, realistic fiction. A Visit to the Desert. Essential question, how do animals survive? Read about how animals survive in a desert climate. Tim was looking forward to this vacation. Then his parents told him the family would be visiting Grandma in Nevada. Tim was unhappy. He wanted to be with his friends this summer. Grandma is eager to see you, Mom said. She can't wait to take you on a desert hike. The next morning, Grandma met them at the airport. Then they drove to the desert. As they hiked, Grandma explained that animals enjoy the open desert space. It gives them the freedom to move from place to place. Tim learned that the animals find ways to adapt to the hot desert weather. He wondered if he could get used to the desert climate. Wow, Tim said, look at that. The turtle carries its home on its back. Grandma smiled at Tim's excitement. Actually, she said, that is a desert tortoise. It looks for the shade made by the shadows of rocks. That's how it cools off. He burrows underground to get away from the heat. The tortoise disappeared into its burrow. Tim leaned over the hole. He could not hear a sound. I'll bet it likes the silence of its burrow, Tim whispered. I think it likes its sense of safety, too, Grandma added. That's the same feeling I get at home, Tim sighed. Just then, a large rabbit hopped by. Grandma explained that the jackrabbit's large ears help it stay cool. These animals are so unlike the animals at home, Tim said. He had forgotten about the desert heat. Some animals stay cool by sleeping during the day. Then they hunt at night, said Grandma. A great horned owl hooted above them. Grandma said, it will soon be time for the owl to hunt. Which means it's time for us to head back, Dad added. Oh, this vacation is going by too fast, Tim said. They asked Tim about the heat. What heat? Tim asked. I feel as fresh and cool as a new flower. I've adapted. Everyone laughed.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our comprehension strategy and skill for this week. Now, our comprehension strategy is to make predictions. Now, a prediction is a guess. So when I tell you to make a prediction, I'm asking you to guess what you think is going to happen. Now, we use what we know and the information that we got in our story to make our predictions. So we're not guessing just anything. We're guessing what's going to happen based on what we've already found out, what the authors already told us.
Make predictions. Use what you already know and what you read in the story to help you predict or guess what might happen next. Find text evidence. After reading page 104 of A Visit to the Desert, I predicted that Tim would enjoy his visit to the desert. I kept reading to confirm my prediction. Wow, Tim said, look at that. The turtle carries its home on its back. Grandma smiled at Tim's excitement. Actually, she said, that is a desert tortoise. It looks for the shade made by the shadows of rocks. That's how it cools off. He burrows underground to get away from the heat. The tortoise disappeared into its burrow. Tim leaned over the hole. He could not hear a sound. On page 105, I read that Tim was excited to learn about different desert animals. I confirmed my prediction.
So what you're seeing happen here is that the reader made a prediction, or they made a guess about what would happen in the story based on what they read, and then they used text evidence. Now remember, text evidence means we're using the text, or we're using the words that the author gave us to find evidence or clues that tell us that we're correct. So when you make a prediction, you keep reading to find out if your prediction was correct. Maybe you were right and you guessed correctly, or maybe you were wrong and something else happened and you had to find out what happened that was different. We're also going to talk about the plot. Now remember, I told you the plot covers mainly your beginning, middle, and end of a story. It tells you the most important things that happen, so that if you're telling the story to somebody else, you're not telling them all of the words in the story the way you read it. You're telling them just the important things so they understand what happened.
Character setting plot. The plot is the events that happen in the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Find text evidence. When I read A Visit to the Desert, I think about the plot, or what happens in the story. Graphic organizer. Beginning. Tim is unhappy because he has to go to Nevada for his vacation. Tim is unhappy because he has to go to Nevada for his vacation.
Now we know in the middle of the story, once he gets there and he goes on the desert hike and tour with his grandma, he finds all sorts of interesting and exciting things. He learns about different animals and how they live in the desert. And then by the end of the story, we know that he's really happy that he went. He's excited and he's probably going to go again. So let's talk about our genre and our vocab strategy next. Now, our genre this week is realistic fiction. Now, realistic fiction is when you have a story that has all the elements of a real story, of something that's nonfiction, but it didn't actually happen. So if I tell you that yesterday I packed a picnic and me and my sister went to the park and had lunch, that's something that could happen, right? It talks about people doing things that they can do in real life, a setting that is a setting that's found in real life, and events that could happen in real life. The only difference is it didn't actually happen. So realistic fiction, when we say something is realistic, that means it's similar to real life, but fiction means it's not real.
Realistic fiction. The story A Visit to the Desert is realistic fiction. Realistic fiction is a story that could happen in real life, has characters that could be real people. Find text evidence. I can tell from the text that A Visit to the Desert is realistic fiction. Tim acts like a real person. He wonders if he can get used to the heat. Use illustrations. The illustrations show me that Tim and his family are visiting a desert. I know that could happen in real life. Prefixes. A prefix is a word part at the beginning of a word. You can separate a prefix such as un or dis from the root word. Find text evidence. I'm not sure what the word unhappy means. I know that happy means to feel good about something. The prefix un means not. I think the word means not happy. Tim was unhappy. Your turn. Use prefixes to figure out the meanings of the following words in A Visit to the Desert. Unlike, page 106. Disappeared, page 105.
So from what we learned when we were going over our notes, we know that un means not. So when something is unlike something else, that means it's not like something else. And we know that the prefix dis or dis means the opposite of. So if something disappeared, it is the opposite of appearing. That means it vanished or it went away and you can't see it anymore. So we're going to take a look at this writing passage that's going to go over our grammar where we were talking about nouns.
Write about the text. I responded to the prompt, add an event to the story. Have Grandma explain why she wanted Tim to come with her to the desert. Before heading home, Tim and Grandma went on an evening hike. Grandma talked about how much she liked living here. She pointed out the different animals that came out in the evening. She spoke about how bright the stars were at night. I wanted to share all of this with you, Grandma told Tim. I wanted you to hike the trails I found. I wanted you to see the animals that live here. I wanted you to see the beauty of the environment. Now, when we talk, you can picture the desert in your mind.
So as we go through the reading, we talk about the event that happened. So we know that they went on a hike, and then we add details. So details give you more information that help you to imagine what's going on in the story better and to give you a better understanding of the events or what's happening in the story.
Event. I added where Grandma took Tim. Descriptive details. I described several reasons to help explain Grandma's actions. Details. I included evidence to show Grandma's thoughts and feelings about living in the desert. Grammar. This is an example of a noun. A desert is a place.
Okay, that takes us to the end of our language arts notes for Unit 2, Week 1. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, second grade. Take care.